Hello guys. Well, this is not a new lesson. This is insights from a previous lesson. Namely, we've been thinking about themes and I've noticed some very interesting stuff. Three of us, Ricardo, Raul and me, because I haven't heard from Mimir yet, have quite interesting situations in our writing. Namely, Ricardo already had a good deal of story worked out, and a lot of his themes seem to spring from the plot itself, because he already has some sorts of plot elements in place. In fact, he is really good. He developed quite a good bit of story. And so it seems to him the theme is like this swarm, this jungle that he has to see through, that he has to decide which themes are the most important. And of course, having a very strong theme and very strong plot, it was quite difficult for him to really discern which threads are most important. On the other hand, we have Raul, who's starting like from blank slate. He doesn't have a plot. I'm discouraging him to develop a plot at this point. So in fact, he seems to have one single theme that seems a bit vague or general, and I've been trying to point him out how to expand from this theme and how to choose several sub-themes from this first one. And it's quite difficult because, as I said, the theme is like a neural network, and he's sort of trying to grow a creature that doesn't exist. We don't see his bones, we don't see his muscles, we just see these faint threads. And for me it seemed like for Raul his theme could be anything. He didn't have anything to sort of something solid to catch on, because for me I'm sort of in between two of them, because I already have a world built, and it's quite thoroughly built. I have a map, I have an atlas, I have a compendium, like with how everyone lives, what kind of people are there, and I have strong characters, but actually I don't have a plot, so I don't have a story. So my themes are somehow in between the situations of Raul and Ricardo. Like, there are some strong themes, but it was also difficult for me to discern which ones grow from my desire, what I want to express, what I want to say, and which ones come from the plot. Because basically, as soon as you have something written down, you could, extract some sort of, this could be a theme also. So I wanted to help you out by suggesting that you do as Ricardo did and map out. He'll share the map with us, I hope, to map out your themes. Like, put what do you want to talk about the most? What's your biggest theme? And then see few others, like 2 or 3 other supporting themes that will help your readers understand the primary theme. Because there's something that with a theme which is which if you write it directly about it for your readers, it can sound a bit naive. Like Raul suggested that his theme is resisting the depression, and then he said, "Oh, I can invent this guys who are sort of representatives of depression, and they're sort of preaching to give up and preaching, like, oh, we should all just lay down and die," something like that. I'm sorry, Raul, if it's not the correct interpretation. So, but the point is, he felt himself that this direct, oh, this is my theme and this is going to translate into a plot, is not going to work, and he's right. The better the work is, the more faceted the theme is, but we cannot always construct it. Some things will simply come up from our writer's voice, from our story as it gets shape. But what we can do is we can set some sort of guidelines for ourselves. That's this compass I'm talking about. We can say, okay, this is what I want to say, and this is how I will serve this to my readers. And I'm not talking about a plot like, oh, I'm going to serve this because I'm going to have these things happening in my story. It's like more like I want to tell you this, but I'm actually talking about the other thing. It's like with the Starship Troopers, you know, like okay, it's a war story about, you know, we can say okay, it's a story about friendship, it's a story about, I don't know, importance of patriotism or whatever, but all these things that uh, 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 audience thinks it's about because it's being served that way actually hides quite the opposite theme, like criticism of totalitarian militarism and such. So sometimes it's very important to see what do I want to say. What's the most important for me to say? What's important most important message for me to convey? And there's not going to be only one. There's going to be at least two or three, and that's why you have to map them out, think them through, and then establish some sort of hierarchy. This is not going to be a blueprint. This is not going to be a rock, you know, set in stone. You can change it in time. I started with the theme like, okay, what does it mean to be human, and you know, is cruelty or mercy a primary human trait? Like, is mercy good for humanity as much as cruelty? But there's probably going to be more themes, like I'm having this vastly different cultures and characters coming from vastly different cultures. So probably one of my themes is going to be this question: can people communicate? Can people really understand each other across the cultures? But basic theme of my world that I built is like, can human society live without war? And what kind of circumstances are needed to avoid war? And if there's no war, does it mean that there's no violence? So I have to have this hierarchy. So this big team, can there be a society without war? It's not going to be my front team that I talk about to my readers. It's going to be my theme, something I want to be, you know, represented in my story. In order to tell this story, I'm going to, express this societies and this world that I've built, which primarily is going to be reflected through their inability or ability to communicate to each other, and their different ways they treat what does it mean to be human, and what does it mean to be merciful or cruel. So it sounds a bit like, oh, you know, this and that. Like how do I slide my real theme under this sort of theme to express to my readers, and is it really possible to do and construct this without plot? Yeah, it is. You just need to see what is it that you want to say, what's the most important aspect of what you need to say, and naturally you will come to this few more themes. If you don't have them, that's fine, it's okay. Dealing with plot will help you out a bit, especially because it's sort of almost impossible to surgically remove, you know. For example, Raoul, as soon as he started talking about theme, he started inventing a bits of plot. That's completely normal and completely natural. What I wanted to tell you is that do make this two or three themes and put them in some order of hierarchy. If you cannot do it now, then at least see them. I asked for Ricardo to draw a map that he came up with for his team, because it's not going to be only interesting for us to see how he decided and what did he pick. It's also interesting because it will be his compass. He's going to be returning to this map of themes whenever there is a plot element that brings any kind of trouble. And that's why it's understandable that it's taking you guys too long to do this homework, because in a way we're going to be refining our theme and our plot throughout this workshop, because it's the key to getting unstuck. Every time you ask me like, how do I solve this problem, how do I do this, do I make this thing happen, or do I invent this character in, or do I invite some technique or some approach, like should my story started in medias res in the beginning, straight to action? Should my story begin like with long exposition? It's all going to be defined by what do you want to say, how important is it to you. And another rule, which is why a theme is is important to be like, what do you want to be heard? What do you want? What kind of message do you want to know? Is because there's a rule about representation. The more a work speaks about something, the more it's important. Like, for example, even in Starship Troopers, I don't know, there are moments when there's not war, but 90% of the movie is about some sort of war situation, militaristic situation. So yeah, that's probably some sort of theme is connected to that. Or I don't know, Scarface. Like, what do you do most of the movie? Shoot each other. Yeah. So mafia, dishonest dealings and stuff. So yeah, there's probably some sort of theme there, but also in a good piece of work. This misdirection, like there's something that readers follow the story through, and then something that author actually wanted to say, it will be interconnected. In sense that you don't only look for what's the mostly represented in a piece, but also what are the key elements and key points. What are the most intense situations? And that's what makes many aspiring writers go very wrong. And they decide to delay the story and then hit us with the punchline or the most important part late in the story. It doesn't work that way. You have to grow it. So these themes that we pick, they're neural network that will support our drive to write the story, but they're also like seeds. We have to plant them very early, when we have to take care of them throughout all of our story, so that they make sense to our players in the key points. Because when the plot point comes, when a turning point comes, when the boss fight comes, it's going to be too late to inject all the info and all the messages that you want to say. So yeah, guys, I believe in you. Come up with this theme homework as soon as possible. I'm going to continue with the next lesson. So this was just an insight from the previous one. And I'm going to review your themes once you hand them in. So good luck.